kicking things off for Pro Soccer Talk this week, gents, our big segment is to talk about what went wrong for England, reacting to their quarterfinal defeat against France. It was a rough one over here in England, I have to say. I knew they'd probably lose down to penalty kicks, but I thought it was going to go to shootout at least, not in regulation. But obviously, France edging past them 2-1 thanks to that Giroud header late on after Tchouaméni's wonderful strike early. Harry Kane dispatched one penalty kick early in the second half. England were flying, and then obviously missed that penalty kick late on to make it 2-2 and potentially take it to extra time. So, yeah, best game of the tournament, I think, Nick, when we talk about the overall quality of the game, two teams just going at it, very evenly matched. Did England actually play better than France, even though they lost? I'm trying to make myself feel a little bit better here, but it was a very even game, right, overall, and struggling to find who actually deserved to go through out of England and France.
Yeah, I think it was at best for France even. They definitely manufactured some quote unquote cutting edge chances. I actually said beforehand, and Joe, it's hard because I want you to be happy, but there was a part of me that was like, I think I might want to see France play on because it's been so great. And then England kind of matched them. They opened up. Like, you can't be the narrative against Gareth Southgate can't really be there. I mean, personnel, maybe you don't like that, but they went for it. They played great. Harry Kane actually was great, except when we talk about narrative went to the other narrative of England's penalty history. It's the last thing I wanted to see other than it actually going to penalties. And I tweeted out that before the game, I was like, I'm fine with anything as long as this game is interesting. And then the soccer gods are staring at me as I say, except that, not that.
Yeah. I know. Of all the scapegoats in England, I don't think it'll get too much stick, but obviously all the memes are already going around. And, Andy, it's going to be tough for Harry Kane these next few weeks and maybe even months, I think, to kind of reconcile what happened there. But overall, like Nick mentioned there, Southgate went for it. England were more attack-minded. And France were pretty worried there in the second half. I think England kind of had them on the ropes. But again, this French team just finds a way from somewhere. Kylian Mbappe was shut down, but Griezmann was excellent. Giroud come up with a big goal. So you have to say hats off to the French for finding a way, even when they're missing so many key players in their team. And just kind of luck of the draw, right? I think when it comes down to it, England's chances didn't fall for them, and France took theirs.
It was, man, it's hard to put into words how cruel it was, honestly. And because we watched just a week ago, we watched the U.S. go out kind of quietly and without a real chance to win that game and to progress in this tournament. Even if they had, I think it was pretty clear that's as far as they could go. This England team had the look of a team that could win the World Cup because they went toe-to-toe with obviously the defending champions, team that now one of the two favorites into the semifinals now. And they didn't just match them, they outplayed them. They doubled them in XG, 2.3 to 1.2. They outshot them, doubled 16-8, shots on target 8-5. Like, they truly were the better team in this game. The only difference was when it came to the center backs making a play. Every single time it felt like there was a French defender or midfielder there to make a key block. And England were just a half step slower, I felt like, inside their own penalty area to react, or with Jude Bellingham, I think, kind of unsighting Jordan Pickford on the first goal as well. The margins, we say it all the time, are so thin, but they could not have been thinner in this game. And that's just it's such a tough way to go out, and you feel for Kane because he's so good. He is a machine on penalty kicks. And the fact he'd already beaten his club teammate, who he's probably taken thousands against over the last decade, maybe, I wondered at the time, should somebody else take it? Because that's such an advantage to the keeper, that familiarity and having the book on a player, that you have to believe he's probably going to save one of two. And he did enough, I think, obviously, to put him off. And just that thought in Kane's head, it was, what a terrible way for England to go out.
Yeah, seeing Harry Kane's reaction there is always very level-headed, usually in defeat or victory for Spurs, but seeing him kind of on his haunches there, just looking at the ground and wanting the ground to kind of swallow him up, you could tell how much they meant to him. And obviously, if he'd have scored that second penalty kick, he would have become England's all-time leading goal scorer ahead of Wayne Rooney. He just equaled that record with the first penalty kick. But I guess, Nick, for England, sort of what next and kind of what went wrong for them at this tournament? Did anything really go wrong for them? And maybe Gareth Southgate's future as well. What do you think about that?
Honestly, it won't happen this way, or maybe it won't happen this way, but it should be Gareth Southgate's call. He has pushed a lot of buttons. There aren't a lot of teams that have gone as far as England has pretty much in every tournament that he's run. Not that there have been a ton of them. I know the Nations League obviously didn't go as well this time around, but he was forced to prepare for a World Cup while playing some young guys who he got a lot out of. If I'm honest, and this is nothing, I'm not going to make the joke now, but during the game, I wanted to make a joke about potential Saints bias. They don't really have a left back. They need to figure out what the future of their center back position is, because I can't even imagine Maguire being in that spot for the next Euro. And how they organize around Bellingham is huge. Yeah. And I want a guy with familiarity there. So unless you're going to go for the guy who won, was it the U17? It was Steve Cooper, right? Unless you're going to go in that direction, I think England has failed with so many different ways, just as the US have, with the import, with the guy with the resume, with the guy without the resume, that I don't think there are some similarities to the Greg Berhalter thing if Berhalter was winning in a much, much, much deeper confederation.
You know what? The midfield point's a really good point. I was really disappointed with Jordan Henderson, Bellingham, and Rice. I mean, Bellingham and Rice did okay, but I just think when you're playing against France and they don't have Pogba, they don't have N'Golo Kante, that was a big opportunity there to really take the game by the scruff of the neck. And they did play well in the second half, but that was more about getting the ball direct to Kane and getting Saka involved and getting Foden. And I wanted to see more from that England midfield. And you're right, they need to figure out how to get around Bellingham, because he's clearly a talent, had an incredible strike that Lloris tipped over. And Mauricio Pochettino is a name I'm going to chuck out there. Out of business. He's been talking a lot about how he loves living in London. That's where his family will live. He loves England. He's already looking at jobs and opportunities. He feels refreshed after his time at PSG. And I'm thinking of how well he worked with young players. And England have a very talented young group of players. So I'm just chucking that name out there, that he's available. And I'm with you, though, Nick. I think Southgate's done enough for the last few tournaments that if he wants to stay on, maybe through the next Euros, then give him that opportunity. But I don't think England fans will really be thinking about that right now. But Andy, for you, England struggles or kind of where they just fell a bit short in this tournament? Was it midfield? Was it just having these games where they can't finish off chances from normal play?
Phil Foden was pretty disappointing, wasn't he? And I know it took a while for him to kind of get into the tournament and get minutes and an opportunity. But as much as we talk about him and being, the next great player coming out of England alongside Jude Bellingham as well, obviously two very, very, very good players to build around for the future, I felt like he left a lot wanting. And anyone in that attack around Kane, it felt like he was simultaneously feeding off of scraps himself and trying to create scraps for others as well. And they're just up until kind of the second half against France, when Bukayo Saka finally found some space, finally got some time, got on the ball, obviously won the first penalty, and was just constantly dangerous coming off of the right side. I think that's what we expected all along. And so I don't know. A lot of young players, I think, and we have to remember that. Like, there are veterans in the England team, but there are young players that I think in key positions had a lot of responsibility and weight on them at this tournament. And it might have just been maybe 2 years too early. Maybe the Euros is when they really start to come of age and you see 24, 25-year-olds that are ready for that and can take it on. You just hope that Kane is still around
who's their Kane?
And fighting. Right. Yeah, well, you just hope that he's able to maintain this at least until then.
Yeah, exactly. I'm already thinking about the next World Cup and what Harry Kane will be early 30s then, 32, 33, maybe even closer to 34. So, maybe he's got one left in him, but over in England right now, very disappointed. But I think with the performance, there is still
He'll only be 33 at the next World Cup, not even the Euros.
And Joe, let's do the comforting Joe session here. We talk about those young players, the ages of Foden, Rice, and Bellingham. I mean, there is a world where that's your 4-3-3 with Foden at the tip if he matures in the right way. Yeah. This with a center forward, with a Kane or the next Kane, whoever that could be filthy.
Yeah. All right. You made me feel a little bit better. So thanks, lads. I appreciate it. Head over to Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com for all the latest news as England crashed out of the World Cup at the quarterfinal stage to France, who made it to the semi-finals. They're going to play Morocco for a place in the final. And the reigning champs, they just about got it done. And Didier Deschamps' boys were delighted to get past their bitter rivals, England. So well done to France. That took a lot for me to say.